What does a sinking ship sound like? More importantly, why would a group of young men frantically call a maritime dispatch to report their 21-foot Triton was going down in 31 feet of water when the boat wasn't sinking at all? The answer? They needed an excuse. They needed an alibi. And in their panic, they didn't realize that modern dispatch systems record in stereo, meaning every frantic whisper, every curse word, and every horrifying realization in the background was captured on tape. For weeks, the authorities have treated this tragic loss of Nolan Wells as an accidental drowning. We've been told there's no foul play. We've been told the kids on the boat were terrified teenagers making a mistake. We've been told by some circles to stop asking questions and let it go. But when you look at the raw data, when you strip away the rumors and look strictly at the GPS coordinates and the medical examiner's bizarre autopsy decisions, I'm talking about sending the body over without the neck, and this newly isolated audio, the official story just doesn't fall apart, it shatters. Today, we're going to do what the investigators should have done on day one. I'm going to play you the enhanced audio, map out the boat's impossible timeline, and break down why a medical examiner made the highly unusual decision to retain Nolan's throat. I mean, we really are beyond the point that enough is enough. Let's start with the bombshell that forced this case wide open. On July 5th, a call was made to a SeaTow dispatch. The official Mississippi Department of Marine Resources released this audio. At first, it sounds like a standard distress call. A young man tells the dispatcher, "Our blige pump stopped working, we're sinking." But the internet did what the internet does best. Audio engineered, realized the call was recorded in stereo. The dispatcher is on one channel, the caller is on another. When the isolated callers side and boost the background gain, it's completely different narrative emerges. In other words, they were able to strip out all of that sound, the wind, the chattering. They were willing to strip it all, and that's when you could hear what really happened. I mean, a completely different narrative emerges.
SeaTow Assistance, Vicky speaking. How can I help you?
Hey, we're at the west tip of Horn, and our bilge pump stopped working. We're sinking. Can y'all please come? We have a membership.
All right, of course. How far is the water coming up, sir? Can you give me a description? Ankles?
What'd
Hello?
you say? Hey.
Yes, how far is the water coming up, sir?
It's coming up. We're just sinking. I don't know. Like we're going down now.
It's coming up. We're just sinking. I don't know. Tell me if you guys heard in the back, because this is what I heard. Shut the F up. Is he dead? And then wake the F up, Nolan. I really heard that. Didn't you hear that? He said, "Is he dead?" And wake up, Nolan. Now let's compare that to what's going on in real time. None of the individuals on the boat have ever publicly admitted to believing Nolan was dead while they were still on the water. The initial narrative was that Nolan stayed behind on Horn Island because of a girl named Katie. But if he stayed behind on the island, who are they screaming at on the boat? This tape is not an internet rumor. It isn't a fabricated TikTok video. This is the official audio from the MDMR. And yet, this case is still as a non-criminal missing persons turned recovery. If you hear a group of people screaming at an unresponsive body while simultaneously lying to the dispatcher about a sinking boat, that is no longer a rescue mission. It's a crime scene. Now let's zero in on this sinking boat. According to the distress call, they are at the west tip of Horn Island in 31 feet of water, and they need to be towed back. But thanks to NBC and independent sleuths, We have the GPS data for the exact vessel. This is probably one of the most important evidence of the whole thing is the GPS records. So let's track the boat's timeline. 9:56 a.m., the boat leaves the original dock. 11:14 a.m., it arrives at Horn Island. Approximately around 4 p.m., the SeaTow Coast Guard distress call is made. We are sinking. At 4:31 p.m., the boat leaves Horn Island. It was towed about 3 miles. Then the tow magically ends. Why? Because the SeaTow captain nearby was contacted by the owner of the boat, who said they resolved the problem. They don't need us anymore. And in layman terms, that means we had a problem, but we don't anymore because the problem's been resolved. Think about this logically. Your bilge pump fails. You are taking in water in the open ocean. You're in panic, enough to call dispatch, but 3 miles into a tow, you suddenly say, never mind, we're good, and drive the boat yourself? I'm not making this up, people. We just heard it on the tape. But it gets worse. Look at where they went next. At 5:44 p.m., they arrive back at the original dock. At 6:06 p.m., the boat travels to Fort Bayou. Later, it goes back to the original dock, then back to Fort Bayou, before finally being pulled out of the water at a boat launch. Between the first stop at the dock and the final haul out, there is a massive time gap, an hour and 13 minutes, where this is allegedly a sinking boat. It's just moving back and forth between docks. If your boat was taking in water, your number one priority is getting it to a trailer. You don't take a victory lap around Fort Bayou unless, of course, you are dropping people off, picking people up, or trying to figure out what to do with a tragedy that just occurred on deck. Now let's dig a little deeper. When the Cajun Navy offered Benjamin Crump, the investigating team, the use of the specialized cadaver dogs that can smell human decomposition or blood or fiberglass months after an event, the officer went nowhere. Why? Because the family doesn't own the boat. The grandfather of one of the boys on board owns it. And without a warrant, nobody's getting on deck. So this brings us to the hardest, most clinical part of the investigation, the medical examiner's findings. When Nolan's family demanded a second independent autopsy, the second doctor ran into a massive roadblock. The initial medical examiner in Mississippi had retained Nolan's lungs, and far more concerning, they retained his throat. Drowning is what they call diagnosis of exclusion. You have to rule out everything else before you settle on drowning. If a body is found in the water several days later, decomposition begins. Blood naturally pools and tissue discolors. Now really feel what I'm serving, people. If someone is put in a chokehold or struck in the neck during a fight, it bruises. The neck muscles can fracture the delicate bones in the neck or tracheal cartilage. But post-mortem decomposition can look like a bruise. The only reason a medical examiner removes and keeps the entire neck structure is to strip away the tissue in a lab and look directly at the cartilage and the bones. They are trying to figure out if the damage they're seeing is just natural decomposition or if Nolan Wells was attacked before he ever went into the water. Let's just let that sink in. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? The medical examiner saw something in Nolan's throat concerning enough that they couldn't just sign off on it as accidental drowning. And remember the Katie alibi? The story that Nolan happily stayed behind on Horn Island to hang out with a girl? Katie has been found. She's cooperating with the investigators, and according to her own sister, Katie said Nolan did not stay with her. He told her he was leaving with the boys he came with. The alibi is gone. The sinking boat story is contradicted by the GPS data, and the accidental drowning theory is currently being upheld in a lab while doctors examine a young man's throat for signs of trauma. So I feel like I know what happened. I'm just waiting for the officials to catch up. So I just need to know who was in the fight and how did the fight get started. We need to know what happened. A community is grieving. A mother and father are enduring the unimaginable pain of burying their son, only to have to wake up every single day and fight a system that seems desperate to sweep this under the rug. I believe in presumption of innocence. The young men on the boat are legally innocent until proven otherwise, but presumption of innocence does not mean presumption of silence. It does not mean law enforcement gets to take their time while the evidence is potentially scrubbed, boats are cleaned, and stories are rehearsed. The internet shouldn't have to solve this case. We shouldn't have to boost audio channels just to hear a victim's name being screamed. But until the authorities step up, this community is not going anywhere. We will be keeping track of the GPS. We will be asking medical experts to decipher the autopsies. We will be keeping saying his name, Nolan Wells. We got to keep the name alive. I need to hear from everybody. Look at the facts we laid out today. The audio tape that we know is real. These came from the officials. The audio tape, the impossible boat timeline, and the retained of the throat. I mean, every time this story is brought up on social media, everybody should end it by saying, where is the neck? Where is the throat? Where is it? Was it damaged? What caused you to take it? These are real questions that we're going to make the authorities answer to. So what I want to know down in the comments section, does anybody agree with my theory? If you don't, you don't. Just let me know your theory. This is an honest conversation because this is a serious matter that needs to be resolved. So I'll meet you guys down in the comments section. Let me know your thoughts on what I said today. Let me know your thoughts about the timeline. The GPS is one of the most significant pieces of evidence. And I'm going to end this by saying, where's the neck? I ain't got nothing else to say. I'm not listening to nothing else y'all got to say until you can answer the question, where is his neck? Until next time, bye for now.